am I the only one giving Derrick Lewis a chance here? I know that it's a short notice fight, but DC's he's battling an injury. He says he's 100%, but every fighter says they're 100% before a fight. Lewis is 7-1 in his last 8. He's got this kind of aw shucks thing to him where he's funny, he's cracking jokes. People don't think of him as this fiery competitor, but I think it's a little bit rude that everybody's writing this guy off because I think that this is heavyweight MMA we're talking about, and we've seen what's happened in heavyweight MMA in the past.
Oh, 100%. I'm not writing him off. I think Lewis has a chance. I don't think he has the best chance. I think that what's Lewis's strong suit? Lewis hits really hard. His cardio is questionable. He's battling a bad back. I mean, the odds are definitely stacked against him. Cormier takes a punch really well. We saw that against the likes of Anthony Johnson. And then what happens if Cormier slams him on his back? That could be disastrous for Derrick. So I'm happy for Derrick for getting this fight. I wish it wasn't under these circumstances. I wish it wasn't. This month, it's October 31st. This month, where the guy fought Alexander Volkov, and he was seconds away from losing the fight, and was getting beat up pretty bad at certain points. And, DC taking this fight on short notice with the busted hand and all that stuff, it's not a very clean thing. But again, and I don't like these fights that are sort of cobbled together. I think it's uncomfortable for everyone. And it's not what the sport should be about. You want the build, you want it to mean something. You don't want to just have a title fight that's thrown together. But they had to make, lemonade out of lemons. And I think that they sort of got lucky in the sense that this is a heavyweight title. If it was just a random title, featherweight, lightweight, whatever, I don't feel like it would be that special. But because it's heavyweight, they kind of lucked out in that regard, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think that this is the right division if you're going to put something together on this kind of short notice. If Lewis wins, is it a disaster for the organization or for the promotion?
Is it a disaster, are you asking?
If Lewis wins. Cormier will have no belts at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Brock is in limbo.
Yeah. No, it is not great. It's certainly not great. I mean, you can maybe warrant a rematch, but then you have Stipe there, who's very upset. It's not great. I mean, Cormier keeps saying that he's going to retire in March. He has never been more popular. He has never fought better. I mean, he's looked great, especially since moving up to heavyweight. He's happy. He doesn't have to cut weight, all this stuff and more. If all goes well, if he wins, and there's still the Jones fight out there, and there's still the Brock fight out there, I don't see how he does that. I don't see how he walks away. He is a very important, he's a very important person for them. He's a very important figure, not only in the cage, but out of the cage as well. So disaster might be a little dramatic, but it's, if you're having an honest conversation with the UFC brass, of course I think they would rather Cormier win. And by the way, Lewis is very marketable. He's great. He's taken social media by storm. People love him. But I think they have a little more invested in DC, and there are bigger fights that they can make for DC.
All right, Ariel, I'm going to let you go. I know you've got to go and do Ariel and the Bad Guy today. You can catch clips of that on tsn.ca/UFC. Of course, if you're south of the border, it's on ESPN+. And, of course, the Ariel.
Is that true? You can get clips?
Yeah. If you go to our UFC section, we've got some Ariel and the Bad Guy clips in there.
Oh, that's phenomenal. We need to figure out how to actually get the show there,
I've sent emails to the higher-ups. We can figure this out. We've got to send enough emails.
Listen, I'm Canadian. I need to be on the Canadian channel, so I'm going to work on it.
I'm with you. And thanks for doing this. Ariel Helwani MMA show. Every week is it's unbelievable to me how many amazing guests you're able to get week after week. This past week was one of the best episodes, I think. And you bring such an enthusiasm to covering the sport. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. For this particular show, I was thinking, should I get Ben Askren on? Should I try to get Demetrius Johnson? Should I try to get Melky Kawa? And I said, why don't I talk to the guy who spoke to all of them already? And that's yourself. So I had first heard rumblings about Demetrius joining ONE back at around UFC 229. There were some rumors I had been hearing. I reached out to who I needed to reach out to. Everybody was radio silence. I know they probably had some legalities to work out. Then I saw that Ben had tweeted that there was a 98% chance that he was going to be in the UFC, and I connected the dots and I said, wouldn't it be crazy if they somehow traded contracts or traded spaces? And then hours later, you go on Twitter and say that there's a trade that's been completed, really the first trade of its kind in MMA. Do you foresee anything like this ever happening again?
Honestly, I think this was the perfect storm. I mean, could it ever happen? Sure, but I don't expect it to happen, every week, every month or so. I don't think that this will be the norm. Certainly not with the UFC. Now, could it happen with small organizations? They want to play nice with each other. Yeah, sure. But the UFC historically doesn't really play nice with others, especially since they've become the number one brand in the sport. But this particular one was so unique because DJ wanted out. Askren wasn't coming back. And DJ, of course, his head coach, Matt Hume, is the vice president of operations at ONE, so he's got the inside track there. It just was so perfect. The UFC was, kind of thinking that they had squeezed as much as they could squeeze out of the DJ orange, so to speak. I just feel like when you actually sit back and look at all the particulars and look at what they were bringing to the table or not bringing to the table right now to their promotions, it was just such a perfect storm. Askren's always wanted to be in the UFC. He wasn't going to fight anywhere else. DJ wanted out, and he wanted out specifically to ONE. ONE has a guy who's not coming back. It's just amazing how it all kind of worked out. So, in short, I don't think that this is going to be the norm. Could it happen here or there? I just think this was a very unique case.
Everybody asks who won this trade, and I think it's pretty apparent that ONE comes out on top because they were playing with house money. Askren wasn't going to fight for them again. He was basically retired. So they essentially got something for nothing.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting take on it. My initial reaction is it's a win-win. I was going to say it's a 1-1, but it's a win-win because, yes, you're right. Ben wasn't fighting for them. Could they have enticed him? Now that they're bringing Eddie Alvarez on board and they're talking to some other people, could they have enticed them? I think so. I never really truly felt at his age that he was not going to fight again, especially considering how dominant he was. But then, so when you consider, okay, they get DJ, they feel like DJ will appeal to their market. ONE is really into the martial arts and the code and all that stuff. I mean, they hardly like to use the word mixed martial arts. They like to use martial arts. They dropped the FC, right? Their ONE championship. They're no longer ONE fighting championship, which I personally prefer more. And I feel like a lot of people have a hard time dropping that as well. But DJ is perfect for them. And then, of course, there's the Matt Hume connection, all that and more. And DJ wanted out of the UFC. I think his tenure there had sort of run its course, kind of like GSP in the sense that, you defend that title so much, you've proven all that you can prove. Are you really going to try to climb that mountain again? I'll never forget when I watched him in LA at 227, I felt like I was watching Anderson Silva. And that famous saying, heavy is the head that wears the crown. I felt like, he just had enough of it. And wasn't all that, he was disappointed he lost, but I don't think he was distraught. I'm going to get back in there. I want my immediate rematch, etc. So they get him, and then the UFC gets Askren. The Askren thing is so funny because I think he's a phenomenal talent. He's shook everyone up. He's calling everyone out. Yet here we are taping this on a Wednesday morning. UFC has yet to acknowledge the trade, has yet to acknowledge his presence, which has made it even funnier in that regard. He has the history with Dana White. It's just such a fascinating story. I love all the layers to it.
Well, I connected some dots because he mentioned on your show that he was going to go to New York and work out contract issues or work on his contract and get it to be more conducive to a UFC contract, maybe stretched out for a couple more fights. And they've got the press conference in New York. So do you think maybe they're waiting for that? I guess we'll find out in a couple of days, but that's what my thinking is.
It's a good idea. It's a good guess. As of right now, he is not involved in that press conference. I do know that he is coming to New York, and I do know he's talked to the UFC brass, and he's openly asked them to acknowledge his presence. Dana White did do an interview with TMZ, so I guess we could say that is a public acknowledgement. But let's we're in the promotion business here. This has been my problem with the UFC over the past couple of years. You gotta make things feel special. You gotta welcome Ben Askren. Give me a video package. Put together some sound of him talking smack. I don't know. Give me a tweet graphic, something. Now, I guarantee you, he's in New York. He's sitting in the crowd. That's all well and good. They'll show him, welcome. Yeah, it's good, but it's just, as you are, we're sports fans, right? When the Toronto Raptors, traded for Kawhi Leonard, and I believe it was, Woj that broke the news, Toronto didn't come out and acknowledge it. Okay, so I'm not saying UFC has to come out and acknowledge it once, the news is first broken.
Well, this is a bad comparison,
done.
Ariel, because they didn't even do an introductory press conference for Kawhi because he didn't want to do one.
No, but listen. The deal is done. The deal is done. One has held a conference call. All fighters involved have talked. The Raptors, yes, they did do an introductory press conference, but they did acknowledge it. They did send out a press release. They did say welcome. They did say goodbye to DeMar. They did actually acknowledge that this thing has happened. So give me that. Just give me some kind of acknowledgement. That's all I ask.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they need to dot some I's and cross some T's before they're comfortable doing that.
No dotting I's. There's no dotting I's and cross T's. DJ's gone. So wait, so are you telling me that?
But DJ's contract's been negotiated now with one. So that's sure. Done. They need to restructure this contract to make it for the if you introduce the guy, you lose some leverage in that regard because they do still need to negotiate some of that part of his contract. No.
So are you saying that at this point, with the cat totally out of the bag, Dana White publicly saying that he's going to fight top 5 guys to TNT? You saw that, right?
I did.
At this point, they're just going to let him walk.
Well, you just never. I mean, would that be out of the realm of possibility in your mind?
Not as out of the realm, but boy, it would be a blunder. I mean, considering all the noise that he's made over the past. Okay, by the way, transactions happen all the time in sports, and that's what I love so much about this deal. It's like, wow.
Yeah, finally a trade to talk about. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's fun.
It's like a big boy sport. Yes, it's fun. So even if you can't come to terms, just acknowledge that the transaction happened. That's all. Chris Weidman is injured, and he's out of the fight with sorry.
Oh, geez, I thought you were breaking some news here.
Yeah, no, sorry, my bad. I got all fired up. Rockhold's injured, out of the fight with Weidman. It took them like 4 days to update it on their website. They just announced, just like a couple of hours ago, that Frankie Edgar was out of the fight against Yair. Brad Okamoto, my colleague, reported on Friday night.
No, they announced it on the broadcast on Saturday. Oh,
I saw the thing on. I was half asleep when the broadcast. Okay, forget about that one. But you know my point, Aaron. They take too long to announce this stuff. You need to be more transparent.
Well, here's my deal with Askren and this particular the promotional element of it. If they want to make this guy big, they have to put him in a big fight, and they have to explain why he's big. And I don't know if they need more time to do that, to do it properly. But I agree with you. I mean, they need to put something out saying this guy's, this is a historic deal that we were a part of.
Yeah.
Even in the interest of their ongoing lawsuit, for them to say we were in concert with one championship to make this happen, and to let fighters have an avenue to go to other organizations should they feel like they would like to. I mean, maybe not in that verbiage because you don't want guys demanding trades, but that's the part of it that I think they really need to explain. They need to explain to the person that's never watched one championship or is late to the game or is new as a Conor era fan who Ben Askren is, why he's important, and why he's going to be fighting. I mean, Dana says a top 5 guy, why he's going to be fighting a top 5 guy. And then also determining who that top 5 guy is going to be. And I don't know if there's really an intriguing fight in that top 5 for him outside of Covington, who's already tied up. And maybe, Darren Till, that's a fight that I can get behind too.
Yeah, I want to see Covington fight Woodley. I feel like that fight has to happen. You're 100% right, though, about the lawsuit, and that's something I should have said earlier. The timing is so fortuitous for the UFC, and make no mistake about it, the last couple of years, like this rise of free agency in the sport, Eddie Alvarez leaving, etc. recently, like, they are happy about this. They want Eddie to come out and say 8-figure deal. The timing is perfect because then they can say, look, Monopoly, we're not a Monopoly. Look at these guys. They're thrilled. DJ is thrilled to be fighting for one. Eddie is thrilled to be getting an 8-fight deal. They are picking their spots very strategically here. So, they're not going to let Conor go. They're not going to get, let Khabib go. They're not going to let George go from his contract. But guys that they feel like, have already reached the mountaintop, it's hard to build them back up, will never reach the mountaintop, they can't make money off them. These are the perfect guys to allow and go sign and then let them do all the media. So I 100% believe that the trade, because at the end of the day, it was almost like, again, to steal it, because it's fun to kind of compare it to other sports, like it's almost like everyone involved had a no trade clause in the sense that they all had to agree to it, right? Everyone involved had to. It wasn't just like UFC woke up one day and was like, "You're out of here, DJ." Everyone had to agree. Everyone had to sign off. But in the end, this thing doesn't get done unless the UFC says it's getting done.